Chapter 3 of The Donut Fix by Jessie Janowitz. I didn't tell anyone we were moving, not even Charlie. He and I had spent the whole day together that Sunday after we went to Petersville, and I didn't say a word about it. I couldn't. Just like going into the house would have made it ours, saying I was moving would have made it true. So I pretended it wasn't. And we played basketball till it got dark, practicing for the tryouts I'd never go to. It helped that Charlie talks a lot, especially when he's worried, which he was. Charlie could go on forever about our chances of making the basketball team. The closer tryouts got, the more he talked about them. He was like Janine in spelling bee season. But unlike Janine, he was totally psyching himself out. Coach Stills hates me, he kept saying that day as he shot and missed basket after basket. What are you talking about? I said. I know Rawl told him the crickets were my idea. Last spring, Charlie and Coach Still's son, Rawl, had bought 100 crickets from a pet store and released them into the ceiling of our classroom. The chirping drove Mrs. Paddle crazy. So crazy, she sent us all home at lunch. But somebody had seen Rawl and Charlie go into the classroom super early that day. So they were called to Principal Danner's office under questioning. Rawl claimed clean, but Charlie denied everything. What did you expect? I said. He got like 2 days of detention. Boo-hoo. But my dad doesn't work for the school. I would have totally been suspended. No way. It wasn't a big deal. Everybody thought it was funny. Whatever. Still hates me. No way he takes me. He will if the team needs you. He wouldn't take me if I were LeBron James. It's just like my dad says. Don't tick people off because nobody's gonna miss a chance to get back at you. Then he hurled the ball so hard it slammed into the backboard and boomeranged right back at him. Charlie's father is full of these fortune cookie sayings, like, getting what you want isn't about what you do, but who you know. And life's not fair. Get used to it. I know them by heart because he says the same ones over and over. Bottom line, Zane Kramer is a nutty. But you can't tell your friend his dad is a nutty. That's just something Charlie was going to have to figure out on his own. The problem was, Charlie wasn't figuring it out. It wasn't his fault you live with stuff long enough. It's bound to rub off. It happens to all of us. What has rubbed off on me was a serious chocolate addiction. At least eating chocolate makes you happy. What was rubbing off on Charlie was the idea that everything and everyone was out to get him. I hated seeing Charlie go down that road, but I didn't know what I could do about it. Pass, I called, running to the basket. Distraction wasn't a long-term solution, but it had proven to work in the moment. Charlie threw me a ball. I jumped and tossed. Swish. Charlie chased the ball down, then stood on the free throw line dribbling, his tongue peeking out above his lip as he eyed the basket. Charlie, age 4, tongue peeking out, planted in a tiny chair outside the red room, popped into my head. Hey, remember the water table? I said. Charlie stopped dribbling and looked at me. The what? The water table, in the red room. Oh yeah, he grinned. I loved the water table. Yeah, me too. So did Charlotte Kay, remember? He whistled. Charlotte Kay. I can't believe you still remember her name. I will never forget Charlotte Kay. The day I pushed Charlotte Kay, she'd been hogging the wheel again. She fell, slicing her head open on one of the corner on the water table. In seconds, her sparkly t-shirt was soaked in red. Charlotte Kay is dying! Some girl screamed, and I believed her, because how could somebody lose all that blood and survive? I'm so sorry, I blubbered as Charlotte Kay was rushed from the room. No surprise, Charlotte Kay wasn't actually dying, though nobody bothered to tell me. I didn't find out until I got home that 3 stitches in her scalp at the emergency room were all it had taken to snatch her from the jaws of death. Charlie had been standing next to me at the water table, and even though he hadn't said anything, he hadn't left my side. He even crawled under the water table with me when I dove under with there with paper towels to mop up the blood. It seemed the least I could do. Then, when it came time for yard, he refused to go because I couldn't. I had to stay inside and think about what I'd done, kill Charlotte Kay. Kylie and Maria explained to Charlie that this was my punishment. Then he couldn't play with me, that I needed to sit alone to think about my evil, evil ways. Fine, he said and dragged his little chair just outside the classroom. Then I'll sit here. And there he sat for all of yard time, tongue glued to his upper lip, watching me 15 feet away on my own little chair as I bawled for poor Charlotte Kay and myself. Charlie Kramer was something different. Anything else would be something worse. Charlie eventually found out we were moving from his mom, who'd found out from my mom. He couldn't believe it. I hadn't told him. I tried to explain about not saying it so it wouldn't be true, but he didn't get it. He was too mad. He seemed even angrier that I hadn't told him I was moving, that I was actually moving. But I got why. Mad feels like it's going somewhere at least. Sad just sits on your chest, making it hard to move or breathe. If I'd had the choice, I would have picked mad too. At home, I went radio silent. I'm pretty sure my parents didn't even notice since Janine was in all-out war and wouldn't stop talking, mostly about how she'd never become president if she went to a school with no G&T. Whenever anyone asked Zoe about the move, she told them that we were leaving the city so Mom could open a Chinese restaurant. Her true feelings were clear from the number of times Mom had to pick her up early from preschool because she'd bitten somebody. Just so you know, I'm not saying my parents didn't notice my not talking to make you feel sorry for me. It's just a fact. When Janine's freaking out, it's hard to notice anything else. Besides, it was better that way, since if my parents had noticed, they would have kept pestering me to talk, which is about the worst thing you can do to somebody who needs to go quiet for a while. I just kept thinking, if this move were really about wanting something different and had nothing to do with money, what if my parents let us finish the school year or at least stick around until winter break? Everybody thinks where they live is something special. Here's how I know the place I lived actually was. It sold in just 3 hours the day of the open house. In case you're lucky enough not to know, an open house is when complete strangers are invited in off the streets to snoop around and see if they want to buy your home. On November 3rd, my parents signed the contract selling our apartment. We wouldn't be kicked out until the closing, though. And I figured we had at least a month because my parents hadn't even started packing. I hadn't counted on them cheating. Did you know you can pay extra to get movers to pack your stuff before they move it? Yeah, well, you can. And those guys are fast because it's all just stuffed to them. Rat, box, repeat. Rat, box, repeat. Some smooth move was a packing machine. In just one day, everything that wasn't nailed down was in a box. 2-year-old Halloween candy. Check. Half a Slinky. Checked. I watched one guy bubble wrap an ant trap without giving it a second thought. I couldn't believe how fast everything was happening. November 15th, a month after we'd gone to Petersville, for the first time, we'd be living there. We wouldn't even get one last Thanksgiving at home. No camping out on 77th Street with a thermos of hot chocolate to watch the balloons being blown up for the parade. Not this year. Maybe never again. At least Charlie's family had promised to come to Petersville to do Thanksgiving together like always. Our last night at home, my parents took Charlie and me to dinner at Katz on Hudson Street. Number 1 hot dogs on the planet. And unlike Barney's, it's about as far from the Upper West Side as you can get and still be in Manhattan. So going there was a big deal. In the car on the way downtown, Charlie and I made bets on how many hot dogs we'd put away. 6 is my record. I did eat 7 one time, but I didn't count it because I had to use one of Zoe's buckets on the way home. Charlie beat me that night by a good 3 dogs. I had to stop halfway through my second. It didn't taste right. Nothing tasted right. Not even the Dr. Brown's cream soda. I guess goodbyes. Everything is different now. I won't be around next time you almost commit murder at the water table kind of goodbyes. Mess with your taste buds. Next time I have a goodbye dinner, I'm going to pick someplace I don't love the food. We didn't get to Petersville till late that first night because Zoe had handcuffed herself to the refrigerator in our apartment. They were only toy cuffs, but she'd flushed the key down the toilet, and none of us could remember the secret to getting them open. Dad called the toy company helpline, but even that took forever because the cuffs were really old and the new ones had a different trick. Anyway, by the time he was transferred to somebody who knew how to open these cuffs, he'd been on the phone for almost 2 hours. Then, when we finally got to the house, it turned out that my mother had packed the house key in a box on a moving truck that wasn't coming till the morning. Zoe eventually got us in by squeezing through a cat door we found after stumbling around the porch in the dark looking for doors or windows that had been left unlocked. Usually, I'm not into stuff about the universe speaking to you and all that. But sometimes when things happen in a certain way, it makes you think about why and what it means. You understand, right? If we'd all been dying to get into the house, wouldn't someone have remembered to take the key? Wouldn't one of us have remembered the trick to opening Zoe's handcuffs?